And away we go. It is the BCJ podcast brought to you by the Holy Grail right here on BearcatJournal.com. You know the deal. Go down, visit our friends at the Holy Grail anytime you are in or around downtown. Stop by the banks, get yourself a nice cold beverage, get yourself some great food. And, you might as well, while you're there, make sure that beverage that you get is a Cincy Light, because the Holy Grail will donate an additional 50 cents into the Cincy Reigns NIL Collective for every Cincy Light that is sold. And I'm just going to tell you now, you are going to want to be at the Grail next Saturday, the 28th, for the UC versus Texas Tech game. Details to follow. We're waiting on a kickoff time to fully commit to the initial plans for the event, but we need to know what time the game is going to start. And of course, it got the 6-day window. So just make sure that you're putting on your calendar for whatever time kickoff is, especially if you're a basketball fan, to get down to the Holy Grail and join us for one of our bigger ever watch parties as the Bearcats take on Texas Tech. All right, let's get this show on the road. Hi, David.
Hello.
How's life? How's things going?
It's going pretty well. I'm hoping that game's a night game. I'll already be downtown, so might have to walk down the hill and check you guys out.
Speaking of the Holy Grail, I heard you said hi to Jimmy the other day.
I did. Saw him. Very, very nice Montgomery and golf outing. So
he was raving about how swaggy that thing was.
Well, I can tell you, I don't know about all the tea gifts, but some of the prizes were pretty outstanding. And then the food, they had Montgomery in, obviously. It's the Montgomery and golf outing. So they had, when the guys and ladies were done, appetizers were like outside there. Had some chips and some shrimp and crab cakes, and then they had ribs, and then they were also grilling like what looked like 20-ounce big bone-in ribeyes for everybody.
Damn.
And then the grater's truck was there, and you got to get whatever you wanted off the grater's truck. My company was there making drinks for Diageo. We had Don Julio and Kettle One, so everybody was getting whatever margaritas or Bloody Marys or Palomas and all that stuff all day. So yeah, it's a big event. They have it at Four Bridges and then across the street at Heritage Club.
And I was told there was like a cigar bar or like a cigar section where you could stop and get stogies
sure.
along the way. Yeah, I heard it was a great event. So
yeah, my goal is to be playing in it next year and not working.
I wish you luck, sir. I wish you luck. Let's get this show on the road. The Bearcats victorious against the Miami Redhawks, 27-16. On Saturday, the victory bell heads back to Cincinnati. We have covered it from pretty much every angle, so we'll, as we always do here at the beginning of this show, this is like the turn the page show. Keegan puts up his preview for the opponent Wednesday afternoon. We do this podcast on Wednesday night, and we get ready for what's coming next. But first, anything about the Miami game, and really, I think more than anything for this show, kind of we're at the end of non-conference play. We are entering into Big 12 action. I think that's probably more of a relevant angle than rehashing a bunch of things that have been talked about, 7 ways from Saturday in this podcast. The Bearcats are 2-1. Should be 3-0, but they're not. David, is there anything really now that we're at that point? We've seen this team for 3 games. What are some of your overall just kind of thoughts as we get ready to enter the 9-game Big 12 portion of the schedule?
Really, and I don't, this might be a little quick, but like, I kind of feel like I have a pretty good understanding of what this team is, except for run defense. Because I just can't really take a ton from the Miami game.
Yeah, they don't try to run the ball.
When they did try to run it, it was not successful. I didn't think it was going to be successful. I didn't think it mattered what UC really did. So I think that's still the unanswered question for the whole team. If I had to pick one thing, because offensively, like, there will be ebbs and flows. There will be individual players that have good games that then the next game maybe don't necessarily not have a bad game, but just aren't as big of a impact or focal point. But I think I know what the offense is. Like, I have a pretty good idea of what the offense is. I said on Sunday on the brunch that I think the offense floor has been raised, and I feel pretty confident that they have the artillery to, if they do have to get into one of these, just call it the old, the shootout type game, that they can at least give themselves a chance. I'm not saying that they're going to win. I'm not saying that, but it's just, I think it's a far cry from last year where if they got down 10 points, you were just like, we're not coming back. Outside of something, like a defensive touchdown, a super short field, stuff like that. They have to score some more points. I mean, they're still, 38 is the high so far, and they've been in the mid-20s the last two games. So they do need to show a little bit more in that regard. But I think if push came to shove and you were like, we need to throw, like, this game is going to go in the 40s. If we're going to win, we're going to need to be in the 40s. We kind of have to abandon the run game. I feel for the most part that the offensive line can pass protect, that Sorsby can be that quarterback, and that they have enough pass catchers to at least not be dead and buried, down 20-7. Like, are they going to come back and win a game if they're down 20-7? I don't know, but last year that was not happening.
Right, they were dead in the water.
So that I think I feel okay about. Obviously we've talked a lot about kind of the whether you want to call it the 4 or the 5. Henderson, Royer, Sorsby, Kiner, Pryor have kind of been like the 5 guys that you're just like, those are kind of these are the main guys that are going to make this offense go. And then who else on a game-by-game basis kind of steps up as well. Defensively, I'm encouraged by the way Eric Phillips has played the last 2 games. I mean, I think Pitt and now again against Miami, he's gotten some consistent pressure, turn those into sacks. I have felt through all 3 games that the secondary has been pretty good. Like, they had the couple big plays against Pitt. The one was not a secondary play. That was a linebacker matched up on probably the fastest and quickest guy on Pitt's team.
Not great, Bob.
Right. So, but I think for the most part, I mean, and even the one touchdown pass, Logan Wilson got turned and got beat. But the one on Miami's sideline that McDonald caught,
it's a great play.
I mean, Cantine's right there. The only thing he didn't do was knock the ball away. I mean, it's a perfect throw to the outside. The receiver made a perfect play, turned his body, did everything. I mean, you applaud and you move on and try to make a stop. But, they had that one ball down the middle to the running back from the slot that I thought was a good play, like a 35-yard gainer, right, kind of down the seam, took advantage on the safety there. But really the pass coverage, we haven't seen busts. The teams have hit some big plays, but other than, I think that, Pitt's going to throw the ball a ton. They're going to hit big. They're going to hit, they just They did it up and down the field against West Virginia. That'll be interesting when UC plays them because their pass coverage is very, very poor right now. But I think I know what I'm getting out of that group. I think the linebackers are in flux. I think we are going to start seeing more Jonathan Thompson, more Simeon Coleman. I think that showed out a little bit in the Miami game, and I think that could potentially continue with Jared Bartlett.
I don't think Jake Golday is going away. I think
not away. I just think I think the snaps are becoming less. I'm doing this with my hands with a gap, more for those listening, and then more like this, where first game and into the Pitt game, it was still maybe 70-30, 60-40. Now I think it's probably going to be 55-45, 60-40, something like that. Coleman and Thompson are making plays. Like, they're making plays.
We talked about this.
You're not going to keep them off the field if they're like the jump Simeon Coleman is making from the summer to the first game, to the second game, to the third game. Like, unless he just regresses, he's going to be playing more.
Yeah.
And I think the same thing with Jonathan Thompson.
I know the staff, and look, we'll just be honest about it. And we love the kid, but Jack Dingle has struggled. Teams have figured out kind of if they're going to drop coverage and you're going to drop Jack Dingle into coverage, we're going to put a running back or a tight end. We're going to put somebody in his area and make him cover it in space. And it's not been a strength. He is not. Maybe he can improve. Maybe some of it's anticipation, whatever it is. Teams, that's the thing about football in 2024, sports in 2024. The tape doesn't lie. And if somebody exposes something, and we saw it happen against Towson, then Pitt really tried to attack it. And then, we saw it not as much against Miami, but a little bit against Miami when he was on the field. As a coaching staff, you have to say, if we can't clean that up, we have to find a different answer for when we're going to play when we're going to play that style. Because it's not fair to Jack Dingle to be asking him to do something that's not necessarily in his repertoire.
They brought Jared Bartlett in, and we kind of all, as he came in, we're like, okay, outside guy, come down on the edge on third down, rush out of a 2-point stance, yada, yada, yada. Well, they've liked him more in the middle, and I don't think he's done anything to tell you that wasn't the right move. Well, I just think Jack's a middle guy.
Yeah, and I think
I don't think he's an outside guy where you get him where you can occasionally, if the personnel doesn't fit right, you're gonna get him matched up on a wide receiver, like in the Towson game, or small running back in the Pitt game. Like, I just think he's a middle guy. And I think they were trying to get their best on the field and maybe see how that worked. And I just don't think it's worked. And that's unfortunate. And I'm sure they can tell me 10 reasons why I'm wrong and why it should work and why it can work. But, it just hasn't through 3 games. And if he's not going to play middle because Jared's playing middle the majority of the snaps, then that's just kind of the way things are going to shake out with these other guys who are clearly making good plays.
I think, Dave, some of that is the way that when I've talked to people inside the program about this version of the 3-3-5, this variation of the 3-3-5, they have said the middle, we use the middle like the old, 3-4, like you used to use the outside. Like, that's the pressure guy. Yeah. And he's not always lined up in the middle. He's lined up on the outside. He's lined up in the middle. He can line up at the line of scrimmage, to pull the, an A-gap blitz or whatever. But that's how the middle is used in this defense, is more of the pressure guy. And I don't know that really is a strength of Jack. Like, he's never been like a pressure the quarterback guy.
Maybe the best play of his career has been the kind of the delayed blitz on 4th down at Pitt last year.
Yeah.
But I don't think that was a true pressure play. That was I see a gap and I'm just going. And maybe it was a delay call or something, but it wasn't like he was mugged up on the line and when they snapped it, he went. He waited, he saw the opening, quarterback didn't see him, came in and made the sack. It's just guys are, that's just how it goes. I mean, you've got a new defense. Everybody's learning. I think something you guys talked about a little bit Monday night, and especially Royer talking about the continuity and everything. And I think sometimes, not that we're quick to lose sight, but like I think we might, some might look at it as an excuse. And I thought he brought up a really good point talking about their version of the 3-3-5 and how it was a pressure version. And I'm sitting there thinking, yeah, because your back group
we're all NFL starters.
We're all second, third, and fourth year guys.
Yeah.
Brian Cook, 2nd year. Forrest, 4-year. Kobe, 4-year. Sauce, 3-year.
Well, Cook was actually in his 3rd year. He redshirted and then had 2 years.
Like consistently playing. So you're all veteran dudes in the system. And then you also then, not in addition to them being veteran guys and knowing exactly what to do, you've got the fourth pick in the draft, 3rd pick in the draft, a 2nd rounder, a 4th rounder, and a 5th rounder.
Right.
So it's like, not only do you have guys that have played a bunch of snaps and seen all the calls and everything that Marcus and Luke would draw up and variations, and we did this to this team last year, and this is how they answered, so this is how we're going to do it to them this year. You also had 4 drafted dudes. One who, is probably going to be a 10-year-old pro playing, like, locking out the entire, we joked about it all the time of like, will the other team throw the ball on that side of the field? That was
will they look? Will they look
will they
that
even
side
look?
of the field?
So
the guy
like,
even turn his head left.
you're taking all that into account, and now we're 3 games into this, and I think sometimes we all want just like, it's instantly going to work, and it's going to work and work good from the jump, and that's just not how this stuff works. I mean, you have so many new players, a new system, you're trying to figure out who does what best. You don't really know until you play somebody better than Towson, who I think is, I should look them up and see how they've done since that game. I think they might have a pretty good year, but it's just going to take time, and we're going to have to roll with it a little bit, and hopefully it continues to get better. And that's why this game, I don't want to jump all the way to Houston yet, because I think we still have some stuff maybe to close out with Miami. But I think the Houston game, I think, is going to go a long way in answering the question I led off with regarding the run defense, because I don't think they're really a throwing team, and I'm not sure how much they're even going to try based on, I would imagine they're going to look at Pitt and Towson and go, prove to us that you can stop the run.
Right.
And we'll get into some numbers and some of all that when we get to that point. But it's a work in progress. It was always going to be, I mean, you have so many new starters and just new players in general in a new scheme. It's going to take a minute. So, be patient, see how it goes. I think there's been positives building week to week, and now we're going to see, like, is it still exploited, or have they figured out some things that it didn't matter that they were playing Miami?
Right. For me, I think the biggest takeaway so far is that I see a much larger number of guys that I think are Big 12 level starters. Does that mean I think that they start for every team in the Big 12? No. I'm not saying like this is all of a sudden a roster full of like, top of the conference guys. But when I look around and they have a Big 12 quarterback, I think.
Yes.
They absolutely have a Big 12 running back. They absolutely have a Big 12 tight end. They absolutely have a Big 12 number 1 receiver. They have a Big 12 offensive line. The injuries, you hope they get through that. The depth has kind of helped them so far. Obviously, Wilder, as Satterfield said Tuesday, was back at practice, hopefully inserting him at right tackle. Now you've got Tinsley that's questionable. I'd kind of be surprised if we see him this week. But now you can if Wilder's back at right tackle, you can move Tinsley or you can move Buford to left guard to replace Tinsley, or you can go with Harder. Like you've got some options there. John Williams, I mean, the progress he's made so far has been remarkable year over year.
For sure. And I think that's the benefit of having a veteran offensive line if they go with, if Tinsley can't play and if they go with Harder, I feel better about it because you have Gerhardt and Williams next to him. It gets more scary and yes, you can give up interior pressure and that's hard to deal with, but like it gets scary when you have inexperienced guys on the edge because they can just overload the edge and and it can be hard to adjust and you can get in your own head a little bit. And so I think they could protect him maybe a little bit, whoever that person might be, if Tinsley can't play. But yeah, that's the whole point is how many times are you just going to roll through a season with 5 offensive linemen playing every snap?
Right. Very rarely. Very rarely.
And you have to get to a point where it doesn't derail your whole offense if one of those guys goes out.
But anyway, so offensively, I feel like they've got Big 12 guys pretty much, the number 2 wide receiver spot is becoming a little bit more consistent between Mays and Johnson. I want a little more from the slot guys. We haven't seen what kind of I expected out of the combo of Tyron Smith and Aaron Turner. Aaron Turner had, he's flashed some. I expected more from Tyron Smith, and we haven't seen that yet. But then defensively, like Dante is without question a Big 12 defensive lineman. Eric Phillips is showing out. Bartlett looks, we already knew he was a Big 12 level player because he's played at the Big 12 level. But Canteen is playing well. When Menkins is healthy, Menkins is playing well. I think Jordan Young has played really well. Kalen Carroll, if you go back and watch some of the tape, he had a rough day against Miami. Not just in coverage, but, go back to the first 2 plays of the game and watch what Miami does to him on those 2 wide receiver screens.
Yeah, blocking
to the outside.
Yeah.
They just flushed him out. Like it took him. I don't know what he saw that he went inside and just benefited both of those longer gains. And some of that stuff like happened throughout the game with him. So I'll be interested to see there. But I mean, overall, Dave, and we're seeing it with some of the depth too. I feel like this roster looks a lot better so far.
Yeah, I think the what we talked about, the depth is improved. I think the frontline players have more talent. The floor has been raised, but how much? And does that just make 20-point losses last year 7 to 10-point losses this year, or does it turn it into wins? And we've got 9 games to kind of see what happens. Absolutely,
but before you can even get to that point, you have to kind of assess through the non-conference and go, okay, do we think these guys are capable of playing at that level? And I think the answer at this point, maybe it'll change. Maybe we'll get into the Big 12 and we'll be having a different conversation in 3 weeks.
Yeah.
But I think that answer is yes. At least from what we have seen, what they have put on tape so far, there's a lot more positions I feel comfortable about going into the Big 12 than I did at this point a season ago. So we'll see there. And I think one of the most promising things is the number of freshmen that are making plays. They're not just out there. Look, it's what you can put them out there. If they're not flashing, it's going to show up. Like you're going to either be talking about they didn't really do anything, so they're out there, but they're not making plays, or B, they're getting picked on. Because guess what? If a opposing offensive coordinator sees a freshman out there that's a weak link that you have to put out there just because you have to put out there, I've seen some of that. Like
the same play it over and over again.
They're just playing because the roster's bad. I don't think that's the case.
No.
I think Marquez Parker looks really good as he's seeing his snaps increase. Sanks has been solid. I'd like to see maybe a little bit more if he's really supposed to be that guy in run support. I'd like to see him flash from that star position a little bit more in the run game. But Trey Gala-Collard played well. I thought Logan Wilson had, like you said, the bad play where he turned to go up the seam and the guy cut right in front of him. And you're never going to recover doing one of these on a guy that's doing this.
No.
He was in a roundabout and the Miami receiver just took a left turn.
Yeah.
Hard to recover. But overall, like Brian Sims, I think, who he's not a true freshman, but he's a redshirt freshman, has started to acquit himself very well, acclimate himself very well at this level. So I see a lot of promise there. And we've talked about this a bunch, Dave. Like it just brings my mind back to the beginning of Mark D'Antonio, that second year of Mark D'Antonio, when all those seniors graduated and they went to the youngest defense in Division I football. And that turned into the Orange and the Sugar Bowl teams. And then when Luke got here, again, youth movement, especially in year 2, where you had, Kobe and Derek Forrest were holdovers from year 1 that got a bunch of run on special teams. But then you started incorporating a lot of these other guys in. And all of a sudden you had a foundation that turned into great teams later down the road. The earlier they get on the field, and that's not to say this is like in 2 years we're looking at a Big 12 championship.
No.
Maybe they are, maybe they're not. But what I'm saying is the earlier those guys acclimate themselves and get on the field and start making mistakes and start learning and processing what it takes to be a great player at this level, the sooner down the road that you're likely to have a bunch of guys as sophomores and juniors anchoring a very good defense. And that we've seen that freshman influx a lot more defensively. Really offensively, I guess the only guy that we've seen is Gavin Grover. And you're seeing his reps increase.
There was just more opportunity defensively as well. So, but yeah, I mean, this is really this staff's what I would call their first high school recruiting class. I mean, the guys they brought in for last year, that was held together as the staff came in and everything. And so it's no knock on them, but these are the guys that they truly had identified and spent time recruiting. And these are the guys that, I mean, the portal is going to be prevalent as long as look at UC's offense outside of the offensive line. I mean, every guy that is making plays is a portal guy.
I mean, even the offensive line, Dave.
Right.
Tinsley's a transfer. Kandra's a transfer.
Yeah. Buford's a transfer.
Wilder's a transfer.
Right.
So, I mean, John Williams and Gavin Gerhardt are really the only homegrown guys on the line.
Go get talent in the portal. Never going to tell you no, but you still have to have that foundational class that kind of gets things going and becomes those Kobe Bryants and Derek Forrest and Jarrell Whites and Josh Wileys that are the reason that this staff is, hopefully has success. And they're the guys that, end up being the ones that, bring in the next group and push and keep pushing things forward. So yeah, it's good to see those guys getting out there and also contributing. I mean, it's not just a bunch of dudes out on special teams or playing at the end of blowouts or, getting their 4 games in and then red shirting. Like, I don't know if all those guys are going to, but I feel pretty good that there's a good handful of them that are going to play every game that they're healthy.
I mean, really the only one I'm not sure about is Monte Whedon.
Yeah, like Devin Zaharsky. I mean, he's played a little bit.
Yeah, I'm talking the defensive guys.
Yeah, defensive guys, yeah.
Coleman's playing. Parker's playing. Sanks is playing.
Yeah.
I don't know how you take Marquavius Sabor off of the field on special teams.
No, yeah, he's going to play every game there.
He's become one of your better, if not your best special teams player consistently every week. So those guys are going to play. I also think it's twofold, Dave, because there are a lot of people that strictly look at the rankings in recruiting, which I understand. It's a tangible metric that over, years and years and years and years of data, the higher rated your recruits, the better you are. But Cincinnati is not in a place to compete for high 4-star and 5-star talent at this point.
No.
So there should be, as this unfolds, some trust built within the recruiting staff, both on the high school acquisition side and the transfer portal talent acquisition side, that these guys know what they're doing. They know how to scout and they know how to identify talent. And you're pretty confident that they know what they're looking for, and they're not just taking guys to take guys. They're taking guys that they feel like can come in and make plays. But hopefully, guess what happens, Dave? As this group of freshmen become sophomores and juniors, they become the stalwarts on the first team.
Right. Like, to me, once you're in school and you've you have tape, your high school ranking means nothing to me anymore.
Right.
Like, you can be like, everybody always talks about Sauce, he was a, mid-low 3-star guy, whatever. After a while, I just don't care. You're a really good football player. What does it matter what someone ranked you 3 years ago?
Kobe was a low, Kobe might have been I think Kobe was
Forrest, I think, was
a 2-star. Kobe
maybe,
was right
Kobe
there
was
on
like
the
an
verge
83 or something.
Right.
So it's like, these guys that are playing now, none of them were like super, super highly.
No, they're like 85, 86.
Yeah. If they keep contributing this year and they're starters next year or something, or major contributors and not, even more so than, and it kind of doesn't matter. Like, they're contributing to a Big 12 team. At that point, I don't really care what you were rated.
Right. And I also think it's kind of interesting to look like at the number of guys that are moving up every year through the transfer portal.
Yeah.
Why not be the team that finds those guys before they end up in the MAC or in the Sun Belt or in the American? You don't want that to be your entire recruiting strategy.
No.
But if you feel like, hey, maybe this is a guy that if we get in here and develop, like, he has the traits that we're looking for.
For sure.
I think people get a little hung up on some of that stuff.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, seeing this play out should give a little bit of it should build a little bit of trust that the people that are tasked with doing that job are capable of doing a good job.
Yeah.
Because this is still a roster that isn't incredibly deep.
No.
Like, you're not looking at an Alabama where, like, okay,
we're talking good about these guys because they're playing and they're doing good things, but in all reality, you really don't want to be in that position.
Right. You want to be in a position where hopefully in 2 years, all these guys are juniors and the freshmen coming in don't have an easy path. Like, it's not, if I beat out this guy, if I beat out this transfer, I'm on the 2D.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just, for me, that part is twofold. Were you surprised by this snap or this stat? Aaron was not surprised by it. I'm interested in your thought. They have had more snaps from freshmen in 3 games this year than they had in the previous 2 seasons combined. So in 24 games, the number of freshman snaps is smaller than the number of freshman snaps we've had in 3 games.
No, not super surprised, especially with Fickle's group. His last year was a very veteran team. And then last year, yeah, I'm not super surprised.
The class was small last year. So
yeah,
that's part of it.
Yeah, for sure. No, not really.
Okay. I thought it was a little surprising that in 3 games you've surpassed the number of 24 games.
Yeah.
I thought it maybe take till the middle of the season.
Yeah.
To do that.
For sure. For sure.
Anything else on Miami that you want to loose end tie up?
Not really anything about the game itself. I did kind of find the commentary after the game, especially with Cam Rutherford's thing with the flag, to be kind of funny. And like several people, whether they were former players or a Miami fan in particular, that I noticed like calling it like the Super Bowl or something, which I just or having just comments on it in general. I just found funny because they're had comments about it in that direction, but then if at any point in the 16 game win streak, and especially like in the Fickle years or earlier when it was like, non-competitive, if UC would have been like, we're done with this, like we'll pay you whatever money to just end this thing now, those same people would have been complaining about how UC like, big timed them and blah, 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 and ended the rivalry. But yet UC gave it the respect that they've always wanted UC to give it and act like it mattered, which I was very happy to see. Like, there definitely was a time where the game would end and the players would be like, oh, where's the bell? Oh, it's all the way over there. Like, freshmen, go get it. Like, we can't even be bothered to go pick it up and act like.
Part of that is that thing is fucking heavy.
Well, it is, but like they didn't let's be real. Like, they felt pretty good going into some of those games that it was not going to be competitive, and when it was over, they acted like it was a burden to go get the thing and ring the thing. And we all know UC has had plenty of hold the ropes and rep the C and all the coaching cliches and the ring the bell thing, but hey, you lost it last year, man. Like, it better be a focal point. And it was just nice to see guys, at least act like it mattered.
To your point, I remember back to, because almost, and obviously this year I didn't do it because I was being volleyball dad, but I've always recorded or live tweeted, like live broadcast the bell. And I remember dating back to like when BK was first here, and it was still pretty fresh that, like, coming off the Big Ben era, like Miami kind of controlled the series.
Yeah.
And you could tell that it did mean a lot to those guys to win that thing. Like, there's a whole crowd around and everybody's coming in and ringing it. And like, throughout time, it did kind of get to a point where like the older guys were just kind of like moseying back to the locker room. Like,
yeah. Oh yeah.
Nobody was really like hyped about it. It was like, yeah, that's our bell. And hey, new kid, we want you to experience what we had to experience when we were freshmen. So go carry that big heavy ass thing. And then you don't have to worry about ever doing it again. It's like a hazing ritual.
Right. Like carrying rookies carrying the veterans' pads.
Yeah.
At, like, training camp.
Go get that 400-pound bell and carry it back to the locker room.
So I don't really have a.
Have you ever tried to lift that thing?
No.
It legitimately is ridiculously heavy. Like,
they always have it on like multiple linemen's shoulders, so I don't think they're doing that because they want to be the ones carrying it every time.
I mean, it's always funny, the new guys that pick it up for the first time and they're like, wait a second. Yeah. Hold on, let me get my footing right. Let me get in a weightlifting stance. Does anybody have a belt to put on for me to lift this thing? It's irrationally heavy.
Yeah.
But yeah, you could definitely tell there was some energy back in that ceremony.
It was nice. I mean, anyone that's listened to this long enough knows that it's not really my cup of tea at this point. So for numerous reasons, but if you're going to play, you may as well win, and you may as well treat it with the respect that it deserves from the players and coaches standpoint.
Yes, very much so.
As for the game itself, I mean, I talked about it for an hour Sunday morning. There's not much to get into about the game.
No, I mean, that was still a decent Miami team. I worry about their offense still a little bit when they get into the MAC. Like, there's not a lot of balance to it.
It was nice to see Dante get. I think there was a tweet out from Eric. I think his name's Galco. He does some NFL stuff.
The four pressures,
four pressures, and yeah. So I mean, getting more comfortable, getting pressure up the middle is huge. I think that's going to be
incredible.
It's going to be a great way to if he can do that somewhat consistent. He's going to get double teamed a ton. So to get four pressures, you're quick off the line. You're beating the center before the guard can even get there, or they're dumb enough to not give the center help. But that is a way that a team who we have questions about the consistency of the pass rush can be supplemented, because in a lot of those situations, it didn't force Gabbert out of the pocket into
just threw it quick.
He just had to throw it away, which, I mean, I'll take that. Like, just kill a play right off the bat. Like, that's fine too. So, can he keep that up as offensive lines get, probably better? I mean, I think Miami was supposed to have a pretty solid offensive line. I was, again, that's why I was kind of a little perplexed about their such anemic running numbers, because it wasn't like UC was making some concerted effort to really shut down the run. I mean, they couldn't run the ball on with a 5 or 6 man unit when the tight end was in. So it's like, is it not as good as maybe I thought it was going to be, their offensive line? So again, will be interesting. Again, this week we'll get into Houston, but should be interesting.
Sorsby, I think the biggest thing I take away from that game is, and once he finds a rhythm, and he's come out of the gate with it and then had it fade a little bit, like he's gone in and out of rhythm maybe a little bit more than I'm comfortable with over the first 3 games. But when he hits that rhythm, dude, he cooks. And he throws a good ball. He was making the right reads on when to get it to Henderson, as Miami was not going to get beat deep. They were pretty hell bent on that. And teams aren't going to give that all season, right, Dave?
Well,
they're not going to give
no, because the last two teams we've played have played quarter coverage.
Yeah.
So unless everybody plays quarters coverage, then
but I mean, just in general, even if it's quarters or not, like if you're playing your DBs 8 yards off of Henderson,
right, but then you have the two deep safeties. So yeah, I mean, I don't think you're going to see that every game. But that's the thing, is like, go ahead, play 8 yards off with 2 deep safeties. We'll just run the ball with Corey Kiner and throw it to the tight end.
Or we'll take the 8 yards that you give us with Henderson.
Yeah, I mean,
we'll take the snap. We'll take one step. We'll throw it to him. He'll run a stop route, and we'll take 8 yards. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
I love that he is a lot of number ones, man. They want to get deep. They want to make the splashy play, and Henderson is content with, okay, if we're gonna 8 yard play down the field,
getting 10 catches every game.
Yeah,
like. You get your yards when you get your catches, like
right.
So yeah,
that's probably the end of this series as we know it on home sites. So thanks to all the Miami fans for coming out.
You kind of, I wouldn't say, I don't know if are we gonna go as far as like calling it breaking news, but you mentioned after this podcast last week about the conversations or possibilities. And you and I talked about this. I think we're both in agreement. Like, I need to know so much more about this idea before I really have an opinion.
Yeah, I think for me, like, ultimately, even if, and let's be honest, they're not going to do this if it is a bad money deal for Cincinnati.
I would hope not. They were already doing a deal that was a bad deal for Cincinnati by playing a home series.
Right. Well, that's why they changed it to the rotating, so they got more games here, or at least in the city, than having to go up
I
there.
just don't think the net benefit of that materialized to maybe what they hoped it would be. Like, saying it's in the city, okay, great. It's still not like you didn't get like a bigger crowd because it was in the city. Like, more Miami people didn't come to the game because it was
don't exist.
because it was in a bigger stadium. I mean, shit. The one year they hosted the game, they wouldn't open up the upper deck because they knew a bunch of UC fans were going to buy all the tickets.
Mm-hmm.
So,
but here's my thing: if you're gonna stick to this model, which I have no indication that they're not, FCS game, Group of 5 game, Group of 6 game, I guess it is now, Power 4 game. If you're going to stick to that model, if you play Miami every 3 or 4 years as part of that model as your Group of 5 game, whatever. I don't care. I don't care.
Yeah.
It just doesn't okay. Whether it's at Nippert, I know, people get, and then you're one of those, you want every game to be at Nippert. I understand.
Yes.
And there are reasons for that. I get it. I'm not disagreeing with that. I just don't personally, I don't really care.
I look at it as is now that we're not doing it at home and home, is it that important to play it every, whatever, we'll just say 4 years at a neutral site versus just having some team be your home game, other team be your home game at Nippert in those situations?
Yeah. And I would guess it comes down to a financial decision of, do we want to have a game where we don't have to pay somebody 1.2, 1.5? I think
right.
I saw there's a recent one that was 1.7 a buy game, 1.7, $1.8 million. If you can play Miami at a neutral site, be it
and I'll tell you this,
Paycor or TQL or whatever,
I'd rather do. I mean, I'm not going to pick on them because I'm sure they're not the only ones, but UCF played 2 FCS teams this year.
Yeah,
I will be furious.
I will let you be furious if they play 2 FCS.
I want all the home games, but if you're telling me that we can't find anybody else to come play here and we got to schedule 2 FCS games and then maybe at Pitt or something, I'll just use that as the example. That no, I'll take the Miami game neutral. Not 2 FCS games. I understand one is pretty much the industry standard. I mean, we're almost at the point. I mean, there were a couple holdouts. We're now at the point where pretty much everybody is playing one.
Yeah.
You only got 3 non-conference games. Don't give me 2 of those.
You can find a Group of 5 team that will take a payday and come to your stadium. Period. With as bad as the Group of 5, now Group of 6 needs money, they will come to your place and play for a check. But I don't really care if they.
No, I'm kind of the same way. Whatever.
It's not going to change my life in any specific way if one of the Group of 5 games every 3 or 4 years is Miami. Yeah. Every other year might bother me a little bit.
Yeah.
If we spread it out to 3 or 4 years, I will be less likely to give a shit.
Sure.
And it's one of the oldest rivalries in football. It's the oldest non-conference rivalry in America. Play that, if you're gonna play a Group of 5, I don't care that Miami is occasionally one of those teams.
Right.
Got anything else on any of that? No. Ready to move on?
Let's go. I'm tired.
All right. That segment was brought to you by Turtles Brew. 0 sugar, 0 carbs, gluten-free, 6% ABV. It's a bourbon-infused sweet tea. They have cherry lime, raspberry peach, orange vanilla, lemonade tea, strawberry mint. There's over 100 locations throughout Ohio. Go to turtlesbrew.com for more information and locations, and keep an eye out for their new product. Different company, same people, but Wicked Hair. Also a spirited tea product. A little bit different, not bourbon, but yeah, it's also very good, and they are just starting to roll that out now. Let's get into to Houston. This is our opponent preview, brought to you by our good friends at Homefield Apparel. It is the countdown to kickoff. Can't miss kickoff. Sorry, countdown to kickoff is a whole different thing. Can't miss kickoff 2024. It is a company that has kind of built their own niche, built their own legacy in the college sports world. They have a great selection of UC gear, all retro logos. I love my Great Midwest 1992 Champions t-shirt. You all right?
Sorry, work stuff.
Okay. I love my 1954 or 56 Cincinnati Bearcats baseball t-shirt that I've got. The hoodies are world-class joggers.
Which you won't need Saturday.
No. 90.
Couldn't get a road game this week?
90. I mean, isn't it like just even worse in Texas right now?
Yeah, but I'm not going to be there.
Oh, okay.
So
I see where you're coming from.
Those guys are in shape. They can handle the heat. It's the middle of September.
In the shade?
No, not until a noon game. No, not until almost the end of the game.
Until it's almost over and
Yeah.
you're finally in shade.
We're like 2 rows off of being in the shade the whole time.
Yeah. But they have, if you're getting ready for the cold weather, they have the bomber jackets. They have the coaches jackets that are very, very cool. Just go to homefieldapparel.com and use the code BCJ24. And I'll get you 20% off of your order at homefieldapparel.com. I got to get my laundry schedule synced up because every week I go up to get a Homefield shirt and I've already worn it throughout the week and it's in the hamper.
You gotta remember which one you're gonna wear, set it aside.
Dave, I'm gonna be honest with you. Volleyball season is kicking my ass.
I mean, the stuff you've told me, it sounds honestly terrible.
I mean, I love her.
It's certainly not like you should show up to watch the games.
No, there's a lot more to it than that.
Yeah,
and it's homecoming week, so I helped make a homecoming float. I did dress shopping, took her to get a mani-pedi, shoe shopping. It's a lot.
You should have called me. I'd have taken her to get the mani-pedi because I would have gotten one too.
Yeah, I next time I'll put that on the list. Dave is in charge of mani-pedi.
Yeah, gotta keep that feet game and looking nice.
You go acrylics?
No, I don't get it, dude. I don't get any color on the fingernails. I'm not pulling a Caleb Williams.
No lie. I dropped her off to get the mani-pedi. I had to go because we were in charge of feeding the entire volleyball program today. 36 people I had to feed. Thank you, Galactic Fried Chicken, for stepping up there. But I get chips and plates and got some ketchup and got some ranch dressing, whatever. I dropped her off on Mall Road in Florence. I go to Costco. I come back. This lady had been giving her exfoliating her legs for the pedicure for half an hour.
Yeah, and then charged you for it. Yeah, it wasn't like a complimentary.
No. I'm not. No, I'm like, hey, that's enough. She's 14. She's exfoliated enough.
Of course, she's gonna say do you want this? Oh, of course I want this. I'm not paying for it.
Right. Let's get to the fingernails and the toenails and keep this damn thing moving. Anyhow, Houston, brought to you by Homefield Apparel. Dave, my dogs are chewing up something in the living room. So, Houston on offense, I'm going to let you go here for a minute.
Okay, yeah. So, I'm in preparation for this. There's been a lot of talk about their defense and how highly ranked and that must be in just yards because their data points and their metrics do not reflect a super high level defense. If you're looking at FPI, which is ESPN's metric, it's very close. UC 66th, they're 69th, which is nice. BCF Toys, which is FEI, opponent adjusted efficiency rating, taking in your offense, defense, special teams. UC 62nd, Houston 73rd, SP Plus, which we mention a lot on here. UC 63rd, Houston 78th, and that's kind of where I get into this idea of their defense. Their defense is ranked worse than UC's defense. Their defense is 75th, UC's is 74th. Offense, UC's 49th, Houston's is 76th. Special teams, UC took a big jump, like a 40-something spot jump after this past weekend in special teams. They're 60th, and Houston's is 131. So, if I'm looking at these, I think it will be a very competitive game, likely a very close game. I think it could potentially be a pretty ugly game. A kind of a slogfest type game.
Which means it's going to be 52-48.
I don't know if they can score that because I think they are going to essentially just say, prove that you can stop the run.
Yeah.
Because their quarterback, Donovan Smith, has only attempted 79 passes in 3 games, 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and been sacked 11 times. He's not, if they give up a bunch of passing yards, I'm going to be very concerned because they have shown nothing through the first 3 weeks that would make me think that someone who has done that through 3 games is all of a sudden going to light them up in the air. He is definitely a running threat. Had a 37-yard touchdown run last year out of the shotgun, basically very similar to a lot of the draws that we saw Emory run last year. He has 27 carries, which leads the team. I'm not sure if they're counting the sacks, though, as carries.
I would guess they are, right?
I would think so, too, but
adjusted.
It's ESPN stat line, so I doubt it's sack adjusted. So, complimenting him with their receivers, I just don't see it. I mean, it's really 3 guys and a tight end. Stephon Johnson, probably their main target, averaging almost 15 yards a catch. No one, I think, has more than 11 catches. The other 2 main wide receiver targets, Mekhi Muse and Joseph Manjack. And then their tight end, I think, is coming along, especially in the run game, Malik Carr. Now, you look at these numbers, though, and you go, okay, Stephon Johnson has 133 total yards receiving through 3 games. 44 of them came on 1 catch. Muse has 102 on the season. 57 came on 1 catch. And Manjack has 95 on the season with 44 on 1 catch. So this tells me that they are running the ball and they're hitting the occasional big play when you get caught out of position because they've ran
stop the run.
Right, because they're running the ball a ton. Like 50% of not Johnson's, that's 33%, but 50% of the other 2 guys' total yards is coming off 1 catch.
Yeah.
So that tells me they're running the ball and then trying to hit shot plays with Donovan Smith because they can't protect him long enough. It doesn't seem like to put any true semblance of a structured passing game on the field.
Yeah.
So that's why I kind of feel like this could be a slog fest, or it might not because they don't have any issues running the ball. That's where that comes into play of UC needs to keep pace because maybe they're just running it up and down the field at will. I mean, their running backs, they're playing 2 true freshmen a bunch, and Stacey Sneed is probably their lead guy, 5.9 a carry, had a 65-yard touchdown last week against Rice. But nothing really jumps out from them either. I mean, Rashawn Sanford is a small guy, freshman, like 5'9", 185, has the most carries at 26. Jamarion Burnett is a big back, like 220, 230. Again, another freshman. But it's not like they've got a bunch of dudes with gaudy carry numbers. I mean, that's 26 and lower through 3 games on a team that doesn't seem like they can really throw the ball. Tells me they're kind of spreading it out fairly evenly with these backs. So maybe that's why no one is like really doing anything great, but like they didn't do anything against Oklahoma. I think Oklahoma's defense is way better than Oklahoma's offense right now. But just offensively, I don't see it. Like, I don't know where they're truly going to do like significant damage, especially in the pass game.
Yeah, that they haven't done really much of anything offensively.
No,
like looking back at each of the 3 games, it's and Rice, even like they had a couple special teams splash plays.
They had that 65-yard touchdown run and then a punt return for a touchdown. So there's 14 of your 33 against a woeful Rice team who we'll throw it way back to the old Temple days. E.J. Warner is Rice's starting quarterback now. Yeah, I mean, they did nothing against UNLV, who UNLV is looking like they're going to be pretty good and could be a challenger for that G5 bid. But, like, I mean, Donovan Smith was 50% sacked 6 times through 2 interceptions.
And then Oklahoma, like, their offense is not.
Yeah, I put this on the board because everyone has talked so much about Jackson Arnold, and they have had wide receiver injury issues for sure. So I'm sure that's playing a part in it, but he has not thrown for more than 5.8 yards per attempt in any game this year, which makes me wonder what, that's another point of like that close game, that close Houston Oklahoma score. It's not being reflective in the metrics of like, or the analytics
down a really good offense.
That it was because I mean, if their offense, I think on SP Plus Oklahoma's is 34th, so UC's is 49th. 3 games into the year, that's not going to be a huge separation in data points. But yeah, for Jackson, for a college quarterback to not pass the 6-yard mark in 3 games against Houston, Tulane, and another nobody outstanding would have probably been an FCS team, if we're being honest, because they played Houston and Tulane. Let me see real quick. Yeah, basically an FCS team, Temple, game 1. I mean, you can't throw for 6 yards a play against Temple. They might
That's
not
a sign of not a great offense.
I mean, they might not win a game. I mean, they scored 51 points, and he still threw for like 5.5 yards per play.
Right.
So that's why I'm kind of, digging a little bit deeper on this defense. I'm not sure how great it truly is. Linebacker Michael Batten, leading tackler, has 2 sacks. They'll be without one of their, I don't know if he's a starter or rotational DBs, Juwan Gaston for the first half. I assume ejected with a targeting penalty last week. Again, in the stats, nothing jumps out. Like, I think they have 3 interceptions. I think they have 5 sacks. Like, it seems like they're just maybe keeping yards down, and just maybe playing some offenses that are struggling at the times. Outside of UNLV, I think UNLV, 27-7 kind of did whatever they wanted week 1. And probably had a lot to do with Houston's offense, quarterback issue, especially in that game. The other interesting part, I think they're pretty darn banged up. I was listening to Willie Fritz this week. They have 7 guys who are out for the year with ACL injuries. Dating back to the summer. They all didn't happen in the first 3 games, but it sounds like coupled with those guys are, your obvious week to week injuries. So we'll see, and we already knew they didn't have a lot of depth coming into this year. So at some point that has to catch up with you, whether it's on offense or defense. You can't be a team that's going through a super kind of a rebuild like they are and just be losing guys left and right like that. So we'll see what kind of effect that has. I think UC got the bad taste out of their mouth a bit from the Pitt game. Should have a high level of confidence going into this week, being back home. Potentially getting some key guys back, getting Dante more up to speed, another game under the quarterback's belt and stuff like that. So, I feel pretty good about a UC win. I think it could be, and I've kind of been right on these last two games with what I've thought. You thought this week with the Miami game they were going to score a bunch, and I didn't go that far. So I think this is going to be another similar situation. I'm probably 27-20, 27-17. Something like that. I think their defense will be good. I think they will try to run the ball. So it's going to be a lower possession game. I think this is not, unless UC just goes right up and down the field in the first quarter and a half, and builds a lead that truly makes them throw. I don't think they're going to try to do much in the air unless they absolutely have to.
Yeah, and I mean, if you have a defense that you think is susceptible to getting run on, why would you not try to run on them?
Right.
Consistently. Have they hit a lot of big running plays?
Not outside of that one from Snead last week.
Yeah.
I mean, Donovan Smith's touchdown last week was a 37-yarder. I mean, if he gets going in the open field, good luck. The dude is a specimen.
He's massive.
And can move. He's like a skinny KJ Jefferson. But yeah, I imagine that's going to be the game plan. Is these guys couldn't stop the run the first 2 weeks. They did. Is it because of them or is it because of the opponent? Let's go find that out.
Right. Makes sense. So what's your final score prediction?
I'll go
You going magic number 27 again?
27. I'll go 27. 27-20.
Okay. With obviously a nervous drive at some point.
Yeah, why not? Why not?
Just following the script.
Maybe it was because I was watching the game. My parents had a ton of people over, and I was watching the game kind of by myself, so I could, watch it well enough to talk about it the next day. It seemed like whether it was the board or the conversation on Twitter or I never felt that nervous even when the game was a one-score game. I don't know why. Maybe I wasn't paying close enough attention. I was never just in a headspace of oh man, this could be slipping away.
Yeah, I was listening via headphones and the radio broadcast with Dan and Jim in a gym somewhere outside of Elizabethtown, Kentucky. So I didn't really get to, and Kelsey was playing a lot. So
right,
attention, while it was happening in my ear, my brain's attention was forward, watching what was happening in front of me. And then, in between points or in between sets, I would get a chance to kind of reset and figure out what exactly was going on. So I didn't feel a lot of stress either. And then when I watched it back, obviously I knew the outcome.
Right.
So you worry less in that environment when you know that they're going to win.
I don't know if Matt is asking, is he a transfer? If he's referring to Donovan Smith, no, he was their starter last year when UC got their lone Big 12 win and made him look pretty bad as well.
And that was not a good defense last year.
If you remember, he threw at least 2 interceptions. Sean Pace had the wild catch one. Or somebody, I can't remember. I try not to remember too much from last year. But yeah, they got pretty consistent pressure on him last year through, I want to say, at least 2 interceptions. They really didn't move the ball. I mean, that game was not really close at all. And UC had, because Deshaun fumbled practically going into the end zone on his interception, which would have made it even, a larger margin. So
yeah. Simone family tailgate. Are we aware of
I've been so
the
busy.
theme?
I've been so busy this week with work, getting ready for the wellness festival next week. No, I have no clue. So unless Mom is watching and tells us, no idea.
Carrie, where are you? You're supposed to be here for these moments. Still no alcohol consumption on Saturday.
Yeah, it's surprisingly not been that hard.
Yeah, I had if we're talking about our previous bouts with alcoholism,
Which we're not. I mean, believe me, we're not.
We're not. Last night I was like, I think I might want to, and then I got home and I was like, I just don't feel like dealing with it.
No.
I'm not.
I remember a lot more about the game. I don't really have to go back and rewatch it Sunday morning or late Saturday night before the brunch.
Yeah. Well, sometimes I like, if we don't have last night, the only thing I had was doing a nightcap with Aaron, and then George and Aaron's show. I kind of hang in the back and pop in from time to time, which I didn't get to do last night. But yeah, I was like, maybe I'll have some beers, and the Cincy Lights are still in my fridge.
Yeah,
it's sad what old age turns you into, Dave.
Yeah,
I probably shouldn't mention that if we've got a meeting with Cincy Light to discuss partnership opportunities. I'm gonna have to get back on the wagon a little bit more frequently. It's been like maybe if I'm lucky, I get one night a week where I can have a couple beers. That's sad.
That's
growing up, I guess.
I know. It's boring.
It's really unfortunate. Yeah, it is.
Boring.
It's very, very boring. It's very, very boring. Let me see. Do we have any other?
Oh, we have this. We have the 6-pack.
I know we have the 6-pack, but I was making sure I don't have any more.
I almost forgot. I wrote down. This was hard again. When do we get the weekend where it's like I don't have to scrounge around for some picks?
Yeah. Well, first off, that segment was brought to you by Turtles Brew. 6% ABV, 0 sugar, 0 carbs, gluten-free. It's a bourbon-infused sweet tea. It's lemonade tea, strawberry, mint, cherry, lime, raspberry, peach, orange, vanilla. They have gotten our guy Gary has gotten me some samples of the Turtles Brew, and I have been letting my friends try it, and they all absolutely love it. They are huge fans of the Turtles Brew.
For the record, the timestamp is brought to you by Turtles Brew. That segment was brought to you by Homefield Apparel.
Yeah. Thank you.
Too many sponsors.
Yeah, and if you're interested, we've got more openings.
We have more opportunities.
I'll sell every last word that we say. This sentence is brought to you by.
All right.
Yeah, the timestamp brought to you by Turtles Brew. turtlesbrew.com for all locations and any information you may desire. And yeah, everybody loves it. Everybody is very impressed with the Turtles Brew. They actually wanted me to let Gary know if he wanted to give me another box of samples so I could give them more to try because I haven't been drinking.
Bring him to the tailgate again this weekend.
I probably will. I brought a lot of the Wicked Hair last time. Maybe this time I'll bring some Turtles Brew and let people try the Turtles Brew.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Dave's 6-pack brought to you by Wicked Hair, I guess, because those come in 6-packs. I don't have a read. They're not paying me any extra. So if you want to advertise Dave's 6-pack, here you go.
We'll start noon, ESPN2, Kansas. This is a Big 12 game. I'm stealing a little bit from you and Aaron, but there was really nothing else I could pick. Kansas at West Virginia. The loser of this game especially if it's West Virginia losing at home. There's gonna be some angry folks. Like Kansas, Jalen Daniels is healthy, not playing well, throwing just some very bad interceptions where it just feels like he's just not seeing what he's supposed to be seeing. I think he's very much missing the offensive coordinator that is now the offensive coordinator at Penn State, whether it's the system, whether it's the connection. Like, it's just not working for KU right now. And then West Virginia, coming off the brawl, their pass defense is rough. Pass offense has been rough. Like, it's weird, though, because, when we did the preview with Chris, he talked a lot about how many fans thought that 9-win season was a little bit of a mirage.
I thought that 9-win season was a little bit of a mirage.
Well,
I was not as high as everybody else on
if
West
they
Virginia.
drop this game, they're 1-3
with a really, really tough Big 12 schedule. First off, Dave, I want to ask you something. I keep hearing, I heard Mo say this today, and I've heard it in a bunch of places, that the Big 12 is down this year.
I mean, we're 3 games in. I don't know how you could. I don't view down as like not one premier team. Maybe maybe that's the way it's being viewed, as like there's not a certifiable, hands down top 5, top 10 type team. But I don't think the conference.
There's a lot of quality teams in the league.
I mean, I think the middle to the bottom is fine. Like, there's some real bad team. Like I'm going to get to another game. Like, Mississippi State is awful.
Yeah,
I'm not sure there's a team like that in the Big 12. I think there's some ACC teams that are not good. Some Big 10 teams that are probably going to end up by the end of the year being not good at all. So it's probably viewed that way because, you have Texas and Oklahoma leaving. Not that Texas has just gotten good. So it's not like they've been some stalwart, year over year top 5 type team. I think it's probably viewed that way just in the sense of like, the best teams are still kind of in that 12 to 15 ranking range. So it's not getting the attention maybe that you would if you had a top 5 or top 7 team. But I don't think I wouldn't go down as in like the play is down. I just don't think this year there's not a surefire best team that's, gonna, no one's talking about right.
We were aware of that.
It's not right. It's not a shocker 3 weeks into the year.
But, Utah is 10. Kansas State is 14. Oklahoma State is 15. Iowa State is 21. Like, Arizona is receiving votes. UCF is receiving votes. Arizona State, shockingly, is receiving votes. Like, that, to me, is not a down league.
No, there's just not there's not the top team or the top 2 teams like there are in the other leagues. Like there are, maybe not the ACC. Sure, I don't know who you would call Miami right now, but
Miami and Louisville.
Prove it to me, Miami. Like,
yeah,
we've done this song and dance with you, a lot over the last however many years. Like, I'm gonna need more than 3 games to stamp you as like a bona fide.
And here's the thing, though, Dave. If one of these teams who plays a bunch of these other ranked teams,
right, wins,
then they're going to be up in the top 7, 8.
Sure, it's just going to take a little bit longer because no one really started up there.
No, Utah's not going back to the Pac-12. Why?
No,
they're going to leave an autonomous conference and go.
They're not taking a 50% pay cut.
It would even. There's no
at best.
What's the Pac-12 going to get as a G5? $10-15 million a year?
15 seems generous.
Yeah, I know.
Probably, that's the thing. That's the thing that some people have talked about is like, is the money, the money is not even that different than the AAC at this point. So like a Memphis, do you want to leave the AAC and for a couple million, maybe a couple $1 million more a year to go fly to Pullman, Washington and Corvallis, Oregon and Boise, Idaho?
I wouldn't think so.
I don't know. We'll see. But
Yeah.
but no, that it's just an interesting game to me because the loser is 1-3 and has 8 conference games left.
Yeah. It's a bad spot for whatever team loses that game. And I mean, Kansas fans are already freaking out about where they're at.
Well, because I mean, I can kind of understand it. You had a good year last year with the guy that you and everybody else thought was a really, really good quarterback not playing.
Wow.
And now he's back and he's not playing well. And you don't have Jason Beam anymore, after you had him for like 9 years.
Jason Beam was awesome.
Like, probably one of the top 5 backup quarterbacks in the nation.
Right. If not the best.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's just an interesting game to me because at 3:30 Saturday, somebody is going to be in not a great headspace. And, like, West Virginia has an off week and then goes to Oklahoma State. So, if they lose, and Kansas plays TCU the next. I mean, there's just, you get in that hole. We saw it last year. Like, there's kind of that. There's not really that game where you're like, UC was that game for other teams last year, but there's not really that game where it's like, oh, it's okay. We can kind of right the ship this week at least,
Right.
There's not a lot of that in this league. So
not on West Virginia's schedule. West Virginia's schedule is brutal.
Yeah, my next one is Florida at Mississippi State, also at noon, ESPN.
Like loser go, like, is it a lose your job match?
No, because
loser gets fired.
No, because Mississippi State has the first year coach, but they are very, very bad. I mean, they got pushed around, not just beaten, but pushed around by Toledo.
Yeah, smacked.
And even if Florida loses, like you don't need to lose to Mississippi State to tell anybody that you're going to fire Billy Napier.
We know.
It's more just dirt on the grave if you lose to Mississippi State, which surprisingly has been a place where many a Florida coach's career has gone to die. And that's the thing. Florida should win. As bad as things have been for them, they have.
If they lose to Mississippi State,
right,
you can't let them get on the plane.
Right. You just got to pull the plug and don't give him the chance for the dead cat bounce where they, something happens and they pulled the upset against UCF, which I think is the next week. I thought they played. Yeah, it is. No, 2 weeks. But yeah, so that one's just interesting because how much worse can it get, which kind of rolls right into my number. I don't think so.
No, he got a 1 year.
Yeah, it wasn't like a 4-year because you went to a bowl game and won.
Right. They basically rolled him over for 1 more year to give him. So he wasn't like his contract expired in 2026. They rolled him over to 2027.
For those listening, the question is, did Neil Brown get an extension after last year?
Yes,
you guys just
you.
started answering a question without any
producer
context.
Extraordinaire.
You're welcome.
Yes, Neil Brown got an extension, but no, Neil Brown didn't get an extension.
Not one that will keep him employed if he wins like 5 or 6 games.
Jimbo to Florida. Boy, that would be funny, wouldn't it?
Why
would Jimbo leave the beach? Like,
you got like $90 million guaranteed or whatever. Like,
not coach.
He's at one of his several ranches right now.
Right.
I'm going now. I'm going to keep I'm not going to pick I'm not going to take Florida State off the pick 6 or the 6-pack until they win a game. Cal at Florida State, 7:00 ESPN2. Cal is 3-0. Florida State's 0-3. Like, say whatever you will. This is an ACC conference game, which just sounds hilarious to say. But I mean, I don't know if they're going to win this game either.
Yeah.
Like, and you're
I
not
don't
fired.
think Cal's
Like,
good.
you're not. That's not the frustrating part, but like, you're not firing Mark Norvell. They should have been in the playoff last year.
Right.
So it almost doesn't matter how bad it gets. I'm just more interested to see how bad does it get.
Let's see 0-4. Let's see
0-4, 0-5. Like, then do you start playing like actual ACC teams? Yeah.
Cal is an actual. When I think athletic or Atlantic Coast Conference, the first thing that comes to mind is the Cal Bears.
Well, I got to go in for you. Friday night is Stanford at Syracuse. Like, what says ACC football more than Stanford at Syracuse on a Friday night?
Oh man,
Yeah.
Where's it at?
Realignment.
It's at Syracuse.
Yeah, it's at the Dome. Like, realignment, baby. So there's not a ton to talk about with that one. It's just
BCJ
on there.
A lot, probably.
It's on there because it's going to be funny if they go in for. And the Cal Twitter memes are great right now. If you come across any of those, they're calling it. When they win, they're going to call it Woke Campbell Stadium instead of Doak Campbell Stadium.
I saw something today, and I don't remember what it was. But
there's a lot of funny ones out there.
Yeah.
Number 4 on the list. We're staying in Florida. Miami at USF, 7:00 ESPN. This one is kind of like okay, Miami, like, show me that you want to be that team that, not because USF is great, but it's going to be jazzed. Like, they're actually selling a ton of tickets at Raymond James Stadium for a USF home game with actual USF fans buying them. And
I don't know.
Miami doesn't have a big fan base, especially up.
Neither does USF.
No, but I mean, everything I've heard. So, and I like Alex Golesh a lot. They played Alabama, I think, better than anybody's played Alabama so far this year.
Yeah.
I mean, the final score got out of hand.
Pulled away a little bit late, but yeah.
Yeah, it got out of hand late, but it was 14-13 in the third, well into the third quarter.
Yeah.
So does Miami go in there and do what a team as talented as Miami should do? Or is this a back and forth game and you give USF a chance to maybe pull the upset at the end? Tennessee at Oklahoma, 7:30 ABC. The whole country will get the chance to see the Tennessee tribal chief because the dude is legit. I don't care who they played because they have played 3 nobodies. Do you know what the score margin of their games have been this year?
Oh, massive.
191-13.
Do you want to make a shit ton of money, Dave?
Sure.
Is somebody already doing this, making the one tribal chief shirts, the OTC shirts with the T?
Yeah.
With the Tennessee
T. With the Tennessee in it. Yeah. The TTC.
Tell me that wouldn't.
Tennessee tribal chief with the power T being in the middle. Yeah.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
But yeah, they've played 3 cream puffs, but they have kicked the shit out of 3 cream puffs. So
yeah,
they ran the ball last week, I think 55 times for 400 and something yards.
Yeah.
And Oklahoma, I mean, their defense has been good. But like the offense is not it right now. So they do get a couple wide receivers back from what I'm hearing that will Nick Anderson and Andrell Anthony certainly will make a difference. But like, you're going to have to score with Tennessee. I don't care how good your defense is. Like, they've got receivers, they've got the quarterback, they've got 3 running backs. Like, they're going to put up points, and the defense is pretty damn.
We're going to find out about that Oklahoma offense real quick.
Yeah, if you get down a couple early or something, like. So yeah, that is certainly the marquee game of the night. I didn't put Michigan USC on here because I think Michigan is a total like rebuild 8-4 type team. You're already making a quarterback. you're already making a quarterback change. Like the offense it doesn't have it. USC shouldn't really have it's kind of like a nondescript game to me. The last one I put on here, Michigan State at Boston College, 8:00 ACC network. Just kind of two like maybe surprising teams. I think Michigan State is playing better than people thought with Jonathan Smith, new coach, a lot of new players, taking his style from Oregon State. Fits very well in the Big Ten, but the way things ended under what was their coach's name? That got in trouble, and I can't think of it right now. But just didn't end well. A lot of questions on how this first year would go. Seems like it's been going pretty good. BC obviously had the win against Florida State. And, another team that is kind of in that middle upper tier possibly of the ACC. So it's an interesting non-conference game to check out, I'm not saying it's one you want to like make appointment viewing, but when the Tennessee game is on a commercial, it's one that I would, I'd flip over to and see what's going on if you're watching the games. There's really not anything great late night this week, so or if there is, there's a Big 12 game, and I wasn't going to I think it's BYU against somebody, so I wasn't gonna use that one. BYU Kansas State, so which could be interesting, but
I mean BYU hasn't been bad.
BYU's playing better than I think people thought. So
right.
They have the BY Jewett quarterback, self-proclaimed. He gave himself that nickname. Jake Retzlaff, believed to be the first Jewish player in BYU history. But yes, he's the BY Jew.
Oh my God. I was going to talk about Kansas State being back up, and that's my pick for Big 12 champion, but you just derailed any thought that was
because it's hilarious
percolating in my brain. Oh my gosh, that is pretty good. Real quick, Dave, basketball recruiting. I think this is why we have 54 people in this room right now.
They didn't want to hear my 6-pack of games for this week.
No, I think they did. I think they were interested in that. I think though, like you might have to throw a little gambling in there.
Well, here, I'll throw a little gambling in there right now. We're 3 games in. If you like to pick games, here's what I would tell you to do. Bet against Temple and Kansas State every game the rest of the year, no matter what the spread is, and send me a message when the season's over with how much money
Temple
you want.
And who?
Kent State, not Kansas. Did I say Kansas State?
Kansas State. Yeah,
Kent State. Kent State.
Okay.
There was a point in the Tennessee game on Saturday where my friends and I, well into the game, were wondering if UT would score more points than they had total yards.
Well, they were on pace for like 130 points at one point, weren't they?
Oh, yeah, they had. It was a very funny tweet. So it was Tennessee scored the most first quarter points in school history with like 37, and then also scored the most second quarter points in school history in the same game.
What?
Yeah. So if you want, bet against Temple and Kent State every game. I'm not saying roll it over, but just like every game, you could roll it over. That would be fun too. And just tell me how much you want at the end of the year, because I don't think either of those teams are winning a game, and they might not cover.
The lines, though, would get increasingly...
Yeah, but they're going to be playing AAC and MAC teams. Like, how big is the spread going to be in the Kent State-Akron game?
Sure, but if they start losing every game by 30, like, the line is going to reflect that they're losing every game by 30.
I'd still take it. These teams are dreadful.
Basketball, but I meant like when you're doing your 6-pack, like
yes, I'll find a game. Yes, we can do that. I'm not going to tell you who to bet.
No, but like what you would play, or what you wouldn't play. Like I would stay the hell away from that.
Yeah.
Particularly, never mind. Let's get to basketball recruiting here for a brief moment. We are in a watch window as Cincinnati is a finalist for one of the fastest rising players in the country over the spring and summer. If you've been living if you moved into Luke Fickell's rock, his name is Keyshawn Tillery. He plays at New Hampton in the Northeast Prep School League. If that sounds familiar, that is the high school or the prep school that Wes Miller and Mike Roberts attended in their prep years. So there is a connection there. You have probably over the past year or so seen Kane Broom tweeting a lot about Keyshawn Tillery. I have spoken to Kane Broom about Keyshawn Tillery. He has coached against him and raves about Keyshawn Tillery and what he did in the games that they have played against each other in that, because they're both in the same high school league. It is widely regarded as the superior place for high school basketball competition, the superior league for high school basketball competition in the country. He plays on the EYBL for City Rocks, which is based out of Albany, New York. Cincinnati was in to see him today. I believe Wes Miller and Andre Morgan were in to see him today up at his prep school. And then at some point this afternoon, he announced a commitment date. He will be committing on the 24/7 YouTube channel on Friday. He will choose between Wake, Virginia, and Cincinnati. If you're into predictions on our site and other sites, all of the predictions are rolling in for Cincinnati. I do not at this point, and some of this is because I had to feed a volleyball team today. A whole program, not a team, 3 teams, a whole program. I had to take care of that. I had to go to a program. I had to go to Kelsey's volleyball match. And then I came home and I'm doing this. So I have not been my normal phone working self today because life has kind of gotten in the way. But I have not gotten word yet that he has informed the schools of his decision. That usually is like when that happens, it's done. All indications are there should be good news for Cincinnati on Friday. I have not gotten that. That's like the final, bit of information that usually comes across is that all the schools have been notified. The coaches all know what's going on, leading to a commitment on Friday. If I did get that, I wouldn't tell anybody because we don't spoil commitments. But it looks like it's going to be a very positive Friday for the Bearcats. How about this one, Dave? I won't, obviously can't disclose sources, but I had someone close to the program that is familiar with the recruiting scene that said they think he might be the most talented prospect that Wes has landed out of the high school ranks
if
he
Wes comes here.
So if he comes to Cincinnati, he would be the most talented prospect that Wes has landed in his time here out of the high school ranks.
That would be enjoyable.
That's pretty high praise.
I would enjoy that.
Everybody I talk to raves about the kid's leadership. It sounds a lot like when people talked about Des Ritter. Like people just follow this kid. We heard that about Des in his true freshman year when he was redshirting and he wasn't playing. Behind the scenes, you kept hearing everybody just drawn to this Ritter kid. We don't know if he's any good, but everybody loves him and everybody loves the way he carries himself. And so a lot of talk about his ability to lead from the front as a point guard, both for his high school team and his AAU team. So if it happens, it's going to be a big one for the Bearcats. Another potentially guy in that top 50 range. I know there are some people that think that he might end up even higher once he goes through his high school season at New Hampton. And hopefully gets invited a little bit to the postseason, all-star circuit to get a chance to show off. But I think upper 30% three-point shooter in the EYBL, like 6 assists a game, has got some scoring pop, good floor general. So if they can, if they get the good word, and I have no reason to believe that they won't. All things do, I'm not going to pretend like there isn't, big flashing lights on the internet in regards to this recruitment at this point in time. But it would be a very good get and a very good start to the 2025 class. I've got a bunch of other information up on the board. Some of it on Jalen Reese, some of it on Davion Hannah. Did you see the thing from the Wisconsin site yesterday, Dave?
I did not.
Evan Flood, who runs our Wisconsin site, said that he is hearing that Missouri has offered Davion Hannah $1.2 million to come to Missouri for one season.
That's a lot of money.
Cash. Now, there are some rumblings out there that could be some people on the Wisconsin side, maybe a little upset that a kid from Milwaukee that is very highly regarded did not give the home state Badgers the time of day, did not take a visit, never really all that super interested in playing for Wisconsin.
Yeah.
But I know Missouri has got a lot of money. I think they had a top 5 class last year. They're trying to back that up with another big class this year. It sounds like Cincinnati and Missouri have upward trajectory in that recruitment. And you started to hear the always interesting, we heard for weeks that Alabama was the leader on Davion Hannah, right? A lot of people felt that.
Oh, yeah.
Now, all of a sudden, it started to trickle out yesterday.
No,
Bama has moved on. Bama has moved on, or they're moving on.
Wait, they were the leader, and now they're moving on?
Yeah.
Usually that's not what – I mean, I don't know. A lot of times –
typically how that works for guys that are rated like top 30.
Yeah, usually aren't the leader one day and then just deciding to go another direction the next.
So if that does happen to be the case, I'm not ruling Alabama out by any stretch of the imagination. It just seems like the momentum is
maybe it's just not the
runaway
deal that some might have been intimating.
Yes. So there you go with basketball recruiting. Like I said, I've been dropping a bunch of nuggets on the Nuggies on the Jucker Court basketball board over the past couple days because there's been a lot to talk about. So now we wait till Friday to see what happens with Davion Hannah and his potential commitment. If you haven't yet, I think it's really cool, Dave, before we get out of here. This is the first year they are opening general admission for the Hall of Fame ceremony on Friday night.
There we go.
$25. You don't get the dinner and all that good stuff, but you do get seats in the arena to hear Marty Gilliard, Sean Kilpatrick, Annette. I'm not going to butcher her name. That's disrespectful to her. That just won a silver medal. That won a medal at the Olympics. Jordan Thompson, who's now a gold and silver medalist as an Olympic volleyball player. Omar Cummings.
Quite a stacked class.
I mean, this is by far the best Hall of Fame class in UC history. And I love them going with the Olympic theme a little bit, getting Jordan and Annette in there and, kind of playing into that as, Olympic medalists being honored and immediately just, okay, you won an Olympic medal. We're going to put you in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
But $25 gets you into the arena. And I'll just say this. Keegan doesn't want me to shit. I'm not going to I don't want to upset Keegan. Keegan is working on a Marty Gilliard story for his induction into the Hall of Fame. And the quote that he gave Keegan on BK, one day I'll share. Just perfect. Chef's kiss.
I mean, he gave him the quote.
I know, but
He should
Keegan,
put it up.
thinks that quote would overshadow his Hall of Fame weekend. Does that mean we can Sunday or Saturday we can put it out there?
Yeah, put it like an edit at the bottom, like when a news article has to make like an amendment or whatever they call it, a correction, or
Yeah.
be like, now I'd like
But
to add this to
Keegan,
the story.
it was cracking me up because Keegan was so Keegan was at a very young age when that team
Yeah.
was
Oh yeah.
so formative, like very formative years in developing your fanhood. And he said growing up, his two favorite players were Marty and AJ Green. And he was like rattling off, like, did you know he lived in his car? I was like, yep.
Yep.
Like, did you know this? Yep.
Yeah.
Did you know that? Yep. We did. So Keegan has been working on that, and look for that in a couple days or before Friday or on Friday, as Marty gets ready to go into the Hall of Fame. Marty and SK with Dan Horde tomorrow, Thursday night, 6:00 podcast at the Rheingeist Tap Room down by Findlay Market. So yeah, it's there's a lot going on this week, and if you can, either make it to the podcast or make it to the Hall of Fame ceremony, because maybe Marty will just repeat what he told Keegan at the Hall of Fame ceremony, which
That'd be cool too.
I want to talk about breaking the internet. Oh,
Yeah.
buddy. But that's about all I got. You got anything else?
No, I'm good.
Yes, Keegan was alive when that team played. He might or might not have still been in diapers. I'm not sure. All right. That's going to wrap it up. We will see you. We got a lot of stuff. Just turn your notifications on. Like and subscribe while you're there. We'll see you next time. That's the BCJ podcast, brought to you by the Holy Grail, right here on BearcatJournal.com.